Hello and welcome to my bio class. Heart is a muscular organ we have already learnt. This is made up of cardiac muscles whose function is to show rhythmic contractions and relaxations and pump blood to various parts of the body. The internal part of the human heart shows four chambers like I have shown over here. On the right side, the right auricle towards the upper side, right ventricle towards the lower side, the left auricle, the left ventricle, and the same internal structure is shown over in this figure also. The contractions and relaxations are alternately shown by the auricles and the ventricles. So when the muscles of the auricles contract or when the muscles of the ventricles contract, we use a term known as systole. Systole means contractions. And when the muscles of the chambers of the heart relax, we call it by the term diastole. This means relaxation. Look at this diagrammatic representation of the heart, students, which is again denoting the systolic and the diastolic movement by the various chambers of the heart. It is important to know the names of the blood vessels which supply blood to the various chambers of the heart. Like the right auricle, we already know it receives blood through the vena cava, like the superior and the inferior vena cava, and also a vein known as the cardiac vein or the coronary vein. And the left atrium or the left auricle, it receives blood through four pulmonary veins, two coming from the left lung and two coming from the right lung. The blood vessels originating from the heart, that is the pulmonary artery originating from the right ventricle and the aorta originating from the left ventricle. The presence of valves inside the chambers of the heart and at the junction of the blood vessels supplying blood to the heart and carrying away the blood from the heart and the various chambers, that is also very important, students. Like we can see here that at the junction of the right auricle and the vena cava, we can see in this particular figure also the valves are present. At the junction of the atria and the ventricle on both the side, these valves are present, and also at the junction of the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery, left ventricle and the aorta, these semilunar valves are present, which play very important role in guarding the flow of blood through the chambers of the heart and make the blood flow in only one particular direction. The picture shown over here gives a clear view of the shape of some of the valves present inside our heart. Like we can see here very clearly that the tricuspid valves have 3 flaps, the bicuspid valves have 2 flaps, the aortic semilunar valves have 3 flaps, and the pulmonary semilunar valves also have 3 flaps. And this beautiful picture shows about the path of circulation of blood inside our heart, shown with the help of arrows, which now we are going to learn in details. Heartbeat is also known as cardiac cycle. So during the heartbeat or what we say as the blood circulation, both these, they are completed in 2 phases in the heart. One is known as the systole, already we discussed here, and the other is known as the diastole, which means relaxation, and systole means contractions. Now, before the heart begins, the chamber of the heart begins to contract. Initially, the 2 auricles, they were in the relaxing stage as shown in the figure over here. So, both the auricles, they were in the relaxing phase, which we call as the diastole. Let me write here the auricular diastole. So, during the relaxing phase, both the auricles, here the contracted phase is shown, here the relaxed phase is shown. So both the auricles in relaxed phase, they were receiving blood. The right auricle was receiving blood from the superior vena cava, the inferior vena cava, and another blood vessel, that is the coronary vein or the cardiac vein. Like I have shown over here also, both the vena cavas and the coronary vein. So the right auricle becomes full of deoxygenated blood carried by these vessels, and the left auricle during the relaxed phase, it was receiving blood from the 4 pulmonary veins. Two veins bringing oxygenated blood from the lung and the other two from the right lung, and the other two bringing oxygenated blood from the left lung. So the left auricle becomes full of oxygenated blood. So okay, so this was during the diastole phase. But heartbeat, when we study, we count it from the auricular systole. So this phase, this is showing the auricular systole. In this figure, it is shown that both the auricles are contracting. So let us write here the auricular systole. Now we will also calculate the timing of the heartbeat simultaneously. So when both the auricles contract, from the right auricle, the blood flows into the right ventricle. During contraction, pressure is exerted on the blood to flow in all the directions. As you can see here, students, all the direction the blood moves. But the blood from the right auricle can never go back into the vena cava or the coronary vein because of these pocket-like valves present at the junctions. This is very important function of the valves. These pocket-like valves, they become full of blood. They dilate and they close these openings. So the blood in the right auricle has no other way but to enter the right ventricle. The valves at the junction of the right auricle and right ventricle, which is having three cusps, but it is facing towards the ventricle. So it is the pocket-like structure is present towards the ventricle. So the blood pushes open the valves and comes into the right ventricle. Similarly, from the left auricle, the blood here has pressure to move in all the directions, but because the valves here close, the blood from here moves only into the left ventricle. And as the cusps of these bicuspid valves, they are facing towards the ventricle, they are pushed open and allowing the blood to come into the left ventricle. Now this auricular systole, it is completed just in 0.15 seconds. So much less time is taken by it. Now the blood has come into both the ventricles. Now the ventricles are shown, they become swollen with blood. As you can see here, students, the ventricles in this figure, they are in the dilating phase or relaxing phase and they are receiving blood from the auricles. Okay, and that is why you see there is a difference in the muscular nature of auricles and the ventricles. The auricles have to pump blood only to the ventricles which are lying very close to them. Now it is the turn of the ventricles to contract because they have become full of blood. So the contractions begin in the ventricles and from the ventricles. Now during again here the blood exerts pressure to move in all the directions as shown over here in the right ventricle and as shown here in the left ventricle. But the tricuspid valve at the junction of right auricle and right ventricle and the bicuspid valve at the junction of left auricle and left ventricle, because their pockets are facing towards the ventricles, now they become full of blood and they close these openings. So the blood from the ventricles can never move back into the auricles. The blood from right ventricle has no other way but to move into the pulmonary artery, which is shown in blue over here, and the blood from the left ventricle has no other way but to move into the aorta as shown by the red colored vessels over here. A kind of thread-like structure known as the chordae tendineae. These are attached at the tip of the flaps of the bicuspid and the tricuspid valves, and these chordae tendineae, they also play very important role in keeping these valves open during the auricular systole and in keeping these valves closed during the ventricular systole like this. The ventricular systole or the contraction of the ventricles, this is completed in about 0.3 seconds. When the ventricles were contracting, the auricles were in the diastole condition, already in the diastole condition. So after the ventricular systole, there is a time when all the four chambers of the heart, they relax together. After systole, the ventricles also start relaxing and the auricles were already in the state of relaxing. So we will find that all the 4 chambers of the heart, they relax together for a period of time, and this period of time, this is 0.4 seconds. So see students, the auricular systole takes 0.15 seconds, the ventricular systole 0.3 seconds, and the diastole of all the 4 chambers together 0.4 seconds. So the complete heartbeat, or one complete heartbeat, that is completed only in 0.85 seconds. That is even less than 1 second one heartbeat or one cardiac cycle is completed, or in 0.85 seconds one complete circulation of blood through all the 4 chambers of the heart is completed. Now let us see in 1 minute. There are 60 seconds, we already know. An adult human being, the heart beats approximately 72 times in 1 minute. It may show variations at different time. It may show variation in the adult women and adult men also, and also depending upon the activity of a particular person, whether the person is doing some strenuous work or excessive exercises, or the person is in a resting stage, the number of beats of the heart per minute may vary. When all the 4 chambers of the heart relax together, this can also be referred to as joint diastole. Now we come to the heart sound, students. Now when the heart beats, or when we go to a doctor and the doctor tries to hear our heart sound with the help of a stethoscope, so he hears certain sounds to confirm whether the heart is working properly or not. Now if we say in Hindi, then Hindi में तो दिल सिर्फ धक धक ही करता है, but when we speak in English, then the sound, it is known as lub and dub, written as lub and dub. So when is the sound lub produced? Now during the blood circulation, when the blood from the auricles have come into the ventricles and the bicuspid and the tricuspid valves show a sudden closure, immediate closure, the sound produced at the closure of these 2 cuspid valves, that produces the sound known as the lub. Now the blood is in the ventricles. Ventricles show systole, contractions, blood moves into the pulmonary artery and the aorta respectively, and after the blood has emptied in the ventricles, now it is the pulmonary semilunar valves and the aortic semilunar valves, they close sharply, and the sound produced at that time, that is known as dub. So when these 2 valves close, after the blood coming over here, lub, blood moves from here, dub, again blood comes over here, lub, again blood moves from here, dub. So lub, dub, lub, dub. This is the sound produced during the functioning of the heart. Okay, and also students, the movement or the number of the heartbeat varies in different organisms. The number of heartbeats shown by a particular organism also depends upon the size, body size of that particular organism, because if the organism is small, the blood has to take a run through a small distance and come back to the heart once again. But if the organism is very large, the blood in their body has to cover a very large distance before coming back to the heart. So we can see here that in a whale, only 15 beats per minute. Elephant 25 beats per minute. But look at this newborn infant, newborn human being, also has 140 heartbeats per minute. A rat has 250 heartbeats per minute, and a sparrow, which is in vigorous activity, 800 to 900 times heartbeats in 1 minute. So isn't it amazing to know all these facts? Hope you enjoyed this video and you got something to learn from this video, students. If you like the video, please let me know so that I can make many more videos for you. Thank you all.